Hi, I'm Joshua Alexander, mental health freedom fighter, and I'd like to talk about a trend that's been going on for many years, a couple decades now, which is the high protein, high fat, low carb trend, and how that affects mental health. So I dealt with serious mental health symptoms, mental illness symptoms, depression, anxiety, psychosis, and debilitating. I was on disability for 8 years, on two different psych medications for 8 years. I ended up living in a group home at one point. So I've had experience with serious mental illness, and you hear out there all the time the high protein. Everyone's obsessed with protein, and it was recommended to me. I was told I need fats for mental health many times, and I wanted to discuss the reality of actually whether or not that's good for dealing with symptoms. So you have to understand that the people that are recommending these diet programs are people who haven't really been that sick, who are relatively healthy, exercising, young, fit, and just kind of got excited about some diet trend, and they cut out processed foods, and they started feeling a little bit better, and they think they're they're an expert. So and even the professionals that are recommending these diets, they don't know what's causing the symptoms. That's critical. If someone doesn't know what's causing the symptoms, then how do you know what to do about it? You have to know what's actually causing the symptoms. So the only source of information that knows what's causing the symptoms is the medical medium information. In over 25 years of searching out in the health realm, the only information that actually gives answers is the medical medium information. It tells specifically what's causing the symptoms, what to do about it, and it works. And that's why I was able to heal applying that information consistently over time. So mental health symptoms and health symptoms in general, there are viruses involved, there are toxic heavy metals involved, and when you understand how that works, and then you can understand like the high fat, whether or not that's going to really help. So eating a high protein, high fat diet, it does a few things for the body. One of the things that it does is it causes the body to excrete adrenaline to thin the blood. So when you're eating high protein, high fat, and high protein is high fat, the calories in protein are from the fat. So it's the same thing. It causes your body to excrete adrenaline to thin the blood. And this is not great for mental illness symptoms because adrenaline is caustic on the body, and it can create wear and tear on the adrenals over time. When people are on psych meds, that's very hard on the adrenals. So that constant adrenaline every day is not great for the kidneys and adrenals, and the protein's not great for the kidneys either. People when they're older end up on dialysis. But another thing is the mental illness. A lot of people have toxic heavy metals in their brain, and the adrenaline can actually cause the brain to heat up. The metals in the brain makes it easier for the brain to heat up. So like when we get emotionally upset or triggered, the adrenaline can actually contribute to that, and people can go into manic episodes or psychosis, and that's not great either. Another thing, viruses contribute to depression and anxiety symptoms. The nerves, the viral neurotoxins inflaming the nerves, and can create low mood or feelings of anxiety. The vagus nerve getting inflamed can create feelings of anxiety. So the high fat diets helps pathogens to thrive because it's lowering blood oxygen, and it's also, when there's so much fat and protein in the diet, there's not enough room for the antiviral foods and healing foods and the foods that we actually need to heal. So it takes up so much space in our stomach. We don't have enough room for the actual healing foods that we need to eat. So one other critical thing is, so for me, healing the mental illness symptoms, I had to follow the medical medium heavy metal detox protocol, and I had to get the metals out of my brain because I had high levels of mercury in my brain. It was passed down from my ancestors. My grandmother had schizophrenia. She had high levels of mercury. My dad used to play in the DDT when they were spraying it in the streets in New York as a kid, which has toxic heavy metals in it. And that stuff gets passed down, to the children. I had high levels of mercury, and I had to get that out in order to heal. And when there's high fat, high protein in the diet, it's very hard to detox the metals out. It's very hard to get the metals out when your bloodstream is filled with fat. The liver, when the liver is fatty and sluggish, because the liver stores a lot of these toxins and the toxic heavy metals as well. And when the liver is like clogged up with all this protein and fat all the time, it can't detox. It can't actually release the chemicals in our environment that we're exposed to every day, and specifically the toxic heavy metals. So that's critical for healing, for long-term healing. I know people, they go on these high-fat diets. You know, if they're on standard American, they're eating fast food, they're eating literally anything really. Then it's, you know, they start taking out some processed foods. They bring in some clean, high-fat foods, and they start to feel a little bit better initially. And part of that is the adrenaline. So they're getting a little bit of extra adrenaline each day, and they're starting to feel a little bit better. But what happens is eventually they're going to get worse, because high fat also causes the metals in our brain to oxidize, which means it starts to corrode and run off into nearby tissue. So that actually will worsen the condition over time. And, that people end up getting like Alzheimer's and dementia down the road from these metals oxidizing in their brain. So it's not a long-term solution. It's a short-term hack for people who aren't that sick. People with serious mental illness, the only way to heal is following the medical community information, knowing what's causing it, being able to get the metals out of the brain, being able to knock down the viruses that's causing the depression and anxiety, and really addressing the root cause, knowing what the cause is, knowing what steps to take, and that's the only way to do it. We can't cheat reality. We can't bypass reality or hack reality or circumvent reality. We have to know the true principles and follow them consistently over time, and we end up healing and improving. So one other thing with the high fat, high protein, when there's fat and protein in the blood, it creates insulin resistance, because the sugar, the glucose in our blood, which we need, our blood sugar, which is what keeps us alive, every single cell in our body, our brain, every cell in our brain needs glucose to stay alive. If our brain doesn't get glucose in 5 to 10 seconds, it starts to die. So we need glucose to survive. We run on blood sugar. And when there's fat and protein in the blood, it creates insulin resistance. The pancreas has to excrete insulin to drive the sugar into the cells. And nutrients can't actually enter cells without being bound to sugar. So, and when we have mental illness symptoms, our nervous system can be weak and kind of frayed and be having issues. And we need ample amounts of glucose and trace minerals as well. Trace minerals from leafy greens and celery to daily celery juice. But we need that high levels of glucose. And when there's fat and sugar mixed in the diet, it creates insulin resistance, which is not good either. We can get low blood sugar, which can contribute to like mood swings and energy fluctuations. So overall, it's just not a great idea to be following trends from people who don't know what's causing the symptoms. And it's also not a good idea in my opinion, to try to get like fast hack results. We want to be making decisions based on true principles for a long-term strategy for healing, and coming out of it, getting out of the woods, winning. You want to win. You want to beat the illness, and be free to live your life, have a blessed life, and that's only possible based on knowing what's actually going on. So I don't know. I mean, I know people. It's fun when people are all jacked up on caffeine and adrenaline, and they're on their social, and they're like, protein, and they're like, they think they're like the Mac, like they think they like got it all down, never been really sick, and they're leading all these people into these trends, and it's not great. It's not great for people who actually suffer and actually struggle in this life, and it's careless. So. I have over 25 years experience. As I said, I was sick for over a decade. I've been healed and medication free for over 11 years now. So this is proven in the trenches results that the medical community information works. Mine is one of thousands of testimonies of healing of all different ranges of illness, autoimmune conditions, childhood conditions, neurological conditions, mental illness conditions. Thousands of testimonials of people healing, and it's the only information of its kind, because it's not man-made. It's not just made up by some health trend person. It's pure information from above, and it's the real deal. So it's important. I'm sharing this because I care. I'm not trying to knock the trendsetters out there, but I actually care about people who are struggling, because I know how hard it is struggling with mental illness symptoms. It's devastating. It's unbearable. It's such a hard road, and I know that, and that's, my heart goes out to you, and I'm sharing because I want you to heal. I want you to have a chance at life, living a blessed life, because you deserve it. You're a good person, and the symptoms are not your fault. It's because you're special. It's because you have something in you that can survive, and you have something in you that can get through it. A purpose in your life. So God's with you. He wants you to heal. He's provided this information, the medical community information, for your healing. You have a right to heal and have a freedom to heal. So I would learn the principles. I would start studying the medical community information and learn the principles, so you can become your own health expert. So, all right, God bless you. I wish you well.